Hello everyone, it's Eon here, and it's time to get started looking at January 2025. So we're going to do a fantasy preview. Now before I get started here, I do want to get on my soapbox for a second and just say it's a new year coming up, and so I've changed the format of the slides just a little bit, mostly to make my life a little bit easier and getting this together a little bit faster in order for you. I am trying to keep the logo of every creator, every tribe, every Patreon on every slide. It'll be up in the top right corner this time, a little bit smaller than before, but mostly so that we can kind of move along here and get things done more quickly. So anyway, I look forward to the new year with you, and let's get moving into things here. So let's start with Arbiter Miniatures. So Arbiter Miniatures this month is doing Eldritch Horrors. Now this one I thought was interesting. So you can see they've released this preview at least 3 different times. And this is an aboleth, I believe. But you'll notice on the left, it's a pretty low quality mini. And then on the right, they have added more renders. And then on the right, they have a much more detailed miniature here. And I just think this is pretty fascinating to support a creator and see how the miniature literally comes to life. Artisan Guild is doing Faldorn Hobgoblins in the month of January 2025. So let's take a look at some of those. Archvillain Games for the month of January will be doing Gladeborn, The Trials of Kurnanos. This here is Nimrathal, the Spirit of the Valley. Here we have Elitherus, the Blown Worm, and a Sap Drinker Dryad. We have Elmira Shadowmark and some Veil Prowler Spirit. Erendor Valtris and Malcor Hesh. I really like the look of that wizard. We have now they do multiple sculpts. We're just doing a preview here. So the Moranal Glade Hunter 1, so that's one of 4 sculpts. They each have a rider. And we have an Oaken Dryad. I've seen some stranger things before. And just another Oaken Dryad. So yeah, they all seem to have the Dryad coming out of the bloom. Nilthalither Glade Guard, Thornweave Dryad, a Wild Packed Word Strider, Weird Strider. Interesting look from Archvillain Games. Next up, we have BattleYak Miniatures. Now, I don't often put these in the fantasy videos, but we're getting some classic Roman Republic Astati. And some Republic Principes, excuse me. And some Republic Triari. So I thought it was worth including here. BattleYak has put out some previews. We have some Wrath-Forged Widow Slayers, along with some Battle Boars. Now, BattleYak has a graphic, and we're going to include it here just to remind you that between now and January 10th, you can use the code WINTER24 in My Mini Factory and save on many of the miniatures and creators there. The Beholder Miniatures this month is continuing their typical theme with the Sin for the 7 Kingdoms, excuse me. And we can see here some of the previews of some of the creatures we're getting. I believe these are Realms of Mayhem Tainted Warriors. I may be wrong, but they look pretty tainted to me. We also have some Dwarf Kingdom Sharpshooters. They come with either a blunderbuss or a crossbow. And we have here some other types of minions of mayhem as well. These are Minotaurs. Here we are with the crossbows. There's a Realms of Mayhem Sorcerer on an undead Manticore. We also have some more Dwarven Kingdoms. These are Unterdrakes of the Molten Core. I've never seen Aztec sort of influence for dwarves. It's an interesting take. You often see that type of motif with lizardmen, but I like that. And then we have the Silvermoor Elves. This is the Searing Bird Lord riding on a phoenix. The phoenix can come without the elf, of course. Bestiarum Miniatures, thanks again, Robert Joker, has done a little small preview of the Spiral Darum. So just some preview art for right now. Bite the Bullet Studios seems to be back to fantasy this month with kobolds. Seems to be a favorite motif of theirs. So here's kind of an all look of all the kobolds. Notice in the middle, they apparently seem to be 3 kobolds in 1 jacket. And for the throwback, we'll be getting some kobolds and goblins as well. Cast and Play Miniatures this month is doing Northwind Vikings. Just to give you a preview of some of these, Barbarian Viking Warriors, some Barbarian Valkyrie, some more children-style villagers perhaps, an Elephant Folk Viking, a Nordic Wolf, Armored Barbarians, Claudio Casini Art has done this. Now, I was going to put this in the science fiction. I do believe this is a science fiction model, but everything else is fantasy. It's a double plasma sword and it looks like a kind of robotic arm, some sort of monk character here. And that's his term, not just me being facetious. But we also see a few other minis as well. Rabid Folk Warriors and such. Clay Beast Creation is kind of going to the sand dunes this month. I believe these are elves of the sand dunes. I think they were saying that this was Santa's sleigh that had been stolen, so they put this out right before Christmas. It's a job I don't want. Claymore Miniatures is put out some preview art, so we have Morveth and Hashcan here. We have a Masked Challenger and a Tamed Ogre Beast. I'd hate to see an untamed one. We have Prince Victor, who can also come on a Royal Griffin. I'm really looking forward to seeing what that model looks like. We have a Marksman of the Red Forest, Dragon Slayer Diana, a Herald of the Tournament, and a Disguised Assassin. I wonder if they meant to spell it that way. And here we have Rolthar, the champion of the Griffin Knights, and there's Froggy, champion of the South Tribes. Notice she's a large miniature. I found that interesting. But yeah, some pretty neat. I really like the motif of these miniatures. Looking forward to that, Claymore. Comet Lord Miniatures is doing a tribe release. They're not one of the bigger Patreons. They do a few miniatures, but they do several sculpts usually of each. We have the Star Eater. So yeah, this is kind of that bordering on modern / science fiction realm. Malice the Corrupted Mage. Here's an old mage of the Comet Lord. Notice he comes with both a mask and not. Very Dr. Fate style mask. And does he have 2 arms or 4, or is that a belt? I don't get that. Comet Lord confuses me all the time. Crippled God Foundry is up this month. They are doing Hunger Incarnate. And Knowles seems to be the theme this month for both their fantasy and their sci-fi release. Be sure to go check out the sci-fi video. We have the Demon Lord of Savagery, which is probably appropriate for Knowles. We have some Gnoll Brutes, along with some Dire Hyenas. We have a Gnoll Pack Lord. He probably should be with the Hyenas. And a Gnoll Shaman. We have some Gnoll Warriors and some Witherlings. Are these diseased, or are they, like, undead? But what I found really interesting are the heroes here. Let's see if any of you are about as old as my age. So Ono the Battlemaster and Tara the Monk. She has a bow staff, and the cut of that jacket is very similar to me. And, ooh, Tro the Barbarian. He has 2 shoulder spikes with 2 flails. Seems like we should be missing a couple of people here, but very interesting crew. That seems to be it for the hero characters to fight off the Gnolls. I would like to see a cartoon about that. Dino and Dog has a couple of tiers, so let's take a look. Here we have I believe that's an Ankylosaur. His tail looks like it's been wounded, but I like the family scene there. Over on the right, we see the beginning of their dungeon tier, so a displacer beast kind of would fit in well, I think, with these prehistoric critters. Pretty sure I used to know the name of this one, but I forget it. Dragon Trapper's Lodge actually hasn't done much of a preview yet, but I did want to give them a shout out. Their Kickstarter about the Archdrake Great Worm is either just about to end or pretty close to it. So if you get a chance and are interested, go check that out on Kickstarter. Also, this miniature is free until January 3rd, so be sure to go check out their page and grab that mini. Dragon's Lake Miniatures is doing Infernal Dwarves again this month. So you get several levies with shields and spears or paired weapons. You get some conjurers, you get some cavalry. They come with command groups as well as archers. There's a citizen giant and an infernal bastion. Duncan Shadow is releasing a bunch of holy warriors this month, along with his golem. But look, some more holy warriors. Also, he's releasing some trolls, and I really like the character of his trolls. I do. But the scary thing about these trolls is there's also going to be some female trolls as well. Epic Miniatures is always an epic release with nearly 100 releases every month, and probably more when you count up all the little scattered terrain pieces there. But this month's first update is Oriental Fortress. So we have some boats and some buildings and all sorts of things to look around. We have a tiefling merchant and a belly dancer. We have a guard drake that is brass and an assassin prince. And there are multiple sculpts of these. We'll come back and look at those in full view in the first of the month. Here we have a cat Jin. I don't know that I've ever seen it as a thing, but now that I see it, I can't unthink it. And then they have a bunch of miniatures. They have several, more than just the normal typical 3 they do, that are just military characters to have around your village, like this guy on Camelback here with the crossbowman. On the right, though, that is a Cyclops, and she happens to be a mage. On the left, we have a Vizier's Abomination. It's hard to tell, but his stomach is, well, it's leaking. And on the right, we have a Grinning Jinn. Here we have an Oriental Fungi Merchant. I'm sure he's in for a good time. And on the right, we have a Scorpion Centaur Lady. Now, of course, where do Scorpion Centaur Ladies come from unless they also have Scorpion Centaur Warriors? And so you get some of those too. Flesh of God's Miniatures for the month of January will be doing Crimson Frost. And we have the Revenant King and a Vampiric Yeti. As if Yeti was not bad enough, let's make it a vampire, y'all. We have a Blood Bear. Please don't tell me it's a vampire as well. He's definitely seen better days, poor fella. We have Frostfang, a vampire beast. We have a Glacial Wraith, a Crimson Knight. I will say Flesh of God has a flavor that is definitely their own. We have a Deathlock. I guess that's like a dead warlock. Glacier Stalker. I think that could work well too as a fire mephit or something too. We have Tiberian, a Crimson Sage. We have Lazier, the Frost Widow. Valrock, the Blood Rage. Rage is what he is, isn't it? Scarlet Oracle. A Winter Harpy. Aldrich, Winter's Requiem. Lucian, the Sunblade Knight. I just really like that miniature. I had to make sure I included it. And Kalen, the Nomad Scout. And there's more coming as well from Flesh of Gods. I just wanted to do a brief preview. Fleshcraft Studios has joined the Ever On network, which is part of Printing Goes Ever On. There's about 5 different tribes. They seem to be changing their flavor just a little bit, and I don't think that's for the bad, actually. Here we have the Forgotten Crusade, which is a little bit different from the last several releases we've seen from Fleshcraft. So this seems more like an army of sorts, and these are compatible with OPR and come with 5th edition rules as well. Goonmaster Games is doing penguins this month. Of course, penguins are family oriented, so naturally they have to be able to carry their young with them, even into battle. The bases from Goonmaster this month are based around trench warfare, so if you need some bases for trenches, Goonmaster has you covered. They've also released a few other previews of some potential miniatures to come. Great Grimoire is one of the smaller Patreon releases every month. We see Shadows of the Frontline, but smaller does not mean less quality. Here we have Matilda Gloamstitch, and we have a Blight Carver. We have a Candle Keeper and the Rotclaw Triad. And we have a couple of busts as well. Thinking the one on the left might be from the previous month, but I'm not 100% sure. Highlands Miniatures this month is doing Sewer Vermin. So we have changed from the Aegean Elves, and now we're in with your Skaven, your Veermen, whatever you want to. These are Sewer Vermin in the world of Highlands Miniatures. These come with multiple weapons, as well as a music command group that comes along with those rank and file troops. So multiple bodies that go together in the middle and multiple arm options as well. Also, I'd like to point out that they are currently doing notification signups for a Frontier. They do what they call a Fillers and Heroes Frontier on My Mini Factory, and this one is going to be geared towards their Sunland Frontier army. Well, Sunland, excuse me. The Frontier is not the name of the group. They don't do Kickstarter. They do Frontiers on My Mini Factory. So, yeah, definitely worth checking out if you like kind of a Renaissance style feel. I like these miniatures. Highlands does great stuff. Ichi Forge has done a small preview for the month of January, and looks like we'll be looking at the Tempest Wayfarers this month. The scouts who paved the way through the ravaged lands have received a completely new look from their team, adding a fresh style that emphasizes their incredible mobility and skill in ranged attack. Comes out January 3rd. Labyrinth Models is releasing constantly. In fact, as I was putting this together today on Sunday, December the 29th, I actually had to go back and add because they put out stuff while I was putting together everything. So, not this, the last thing we'll look at, but these are Warriors of Hades, if you can't tell, with the Cerberus-inspired shield. They're continuing their Olympian theme. We have some armored centaurs. We have Orpheus and Eurydice. I don't know if I've ever actually really said her name before, have I? We have Bellerophon and Pegasus. Let me go back and reread my Greek mythology. We have Arachne. Now she can come with or without the legs. And then what was added at the last minute was Hephaestus's automatons. Last Sword of Miniatures have been putting out quite a few previews. Again, they do 2 different tiers. Looks like we're getting some dwarves. We have some hammerers and some royal guard, some clan warriors. And then for the adventurer release, it seems to be themed around gladiators. I wonder what their inspiration was. Something recently happened with gladiators. That guy looks familiar. Oh, more dwarves. We have Anvil. You know, it would have been easier, guys, if y'all had maybe put some wheels on that table. And then we have several gladiators, each with a different character name. I don't think they have their graphics right. So we have Thrakes and Secator. We have Scissor and Dimacarius. And there's Dimacarius again. Something, yeah, that graphics messed up, not my fault. And Haplomachus. We have some more dwarves. Never get sick of looking at dwarves. I do get tired of all these tribes tempting me. I don't subscribe to everything that I show in these videos. I can't afford that, but man, there's some nice looking dwarves. Loot Studios this month is going to be going with Rotten Rats. So they've done a small preview here, and we're just going to look at a few of the images here. We have Decrepita. She's named like that. She's got to be a part of the Addams family, wouldn't you think? We have a Ratfolk Caster. Oris Damyar. A decrepit swine. I guess Decreptia has to have something to ride in on, right? We have some giant rats, always useful for any low-level adventuring group. We have a rat catcher. Now here's a question: is he a good guy or a bad guy? Or is he one of those ambiguously hard to tell? We have an Azure Riverbend. and a Rotten Bandit. And there'll be more, of course, coming from the studios, but just wanted to give you a preview of what to look for. Lost Kingdom Miniatures, we haven't really got any previews, but they put this graphic out, and I really liked the Santa on a yak and the little gnomes, elves, dwarves that are helping Santa out on the bottom right there, and I thought it was worth including that. And again, they want to point out that, you know, there is the sale going on right now. Of course, Winter 24, you can get on My Mini Factory, but you can also save yourself some money with another code that they have here as well. And if you're already subscribing, you can even a little bit more. Mammoth Factory has put out some images of what they're putting together. They're getting some early renders, and they're kind of going with that dark fairy tale theme again. So here we have, instead of Snow White, we have Snow Blight. We have some Stout Masters, and you can see how they've used some reference images for their artwork. And there's happens to be 7 of these guys. We have King Pew. I'm not sure the name of this guy. I would assume it's some variation of like Rafiki from the look, but I'm not sure. Here we have a Hag of the Black Orchard. And a troll. A couple of really nice looking trolls, actually. And we have a giant and some, I guess, prince that have found, or heroes that have seen better days. Mantic Vault has done their January preview, and here's everything you're getting. It's mostly a fantasy release this month, and we're not going to look at every single thing just yet, but we're going to look at a few really quick. So these are Forces of the Abyss. That's an Abyssal Succuba Lurker, for instance. And then we have Forces of the Abyss for Armada. This is an Abyssal Flamebearer ship. And another ship for Forces of the Abyss. And pretty interesting artwork there with these souls. And then for Kings of War, I believe it was, this is an Abyssal Despoiler. And there's a few other miniatures, again, that were on that big preview video, but we'll come back and look at those in the first video from January. Here we have MOMMiniatures, and MOMMiniatures this month is doing what seems to be like a, I hate to use my own term, but like a Chaos Dwarf theme. These are, I don't think they have a name for them. These are Fire Halberdiers, Fire Disciples, Hell Dwarf Arquebusiers, Hell Dwarf with Mace, and a Titan of Fire. Notice they do 2 different levels depending on what you want to get. Looks like it's pretty much, do you want the big guy or not? NPC Forge was originally Mortals of Ashmorn and has joined the Everon group. Thanks, Alric, for pointing that out to me. I did not realize they had changed their name. But this is their new graphic, and they're changing their theme, their approach a little bit. Obviously, with a name like NPC Forge, we're looking to focus probably more on NPCs of various sorts. And the month of January will be the Faithful of the Sacred Flame. Little bit different flavor from what we've seen before, but not bad. One Page Rules has done a roadmap for the next few months. They typically post for a few months what they plan on doing. just to kind of give you an idea here. So it looks like we'll be doing Wood Elves and Human Defense Force for January and for February. You'll also be getting a new welcome pack in February. And then we're going to do Wood Elves and Human Defense Force again in March. And then Wood Elves, and we're getting a new sci-fi army. They haven't said what. As well as some new loyalty rewards. So let's look at some Wood Elves. Well, that's not a Wood Elf. For someone who's lost a hand, he's smiling a lot more than I would think he would. But here's some early renders of the January releases from the Wood Elves. Some archers. Some cavalry on deer. A couple of beetles. They grow them big there, don't they? This is actually for Age of Fantasy. This is the Lust Daemon Sorcerer. She commands the manipulative power of Havoc magic to devastate an effect. So this is their Age of Fantasy release. Also, we have this terrain, which I feel like would fit well in a fantasy world, so I included it here as well, but it could go for a science fiction world as well. I think they're getting ready to introduce more fantasy terrain. Primal Collectibles has not really done much of a preview yet, but there is this, and I'm not 100% sure this is coming in January, but this is a Dragon Lance. If you're familiar, it looks a lot like Gold Moon. I believe it's Gold Moon, isn't it? It's been a while since I've read. And I think that might be Sturm laying on the ground there. I'm not 100% sure, but they're doing a diorama, and this is an early work in progress of that. The printing goes ever on. Tales of the Radiant Shores will be part of their Wargaming release, and their RPG release will be Rift Riders. So, apologies, I forgot to recenter that image, but here's the Tales of the Radiant Shores. Just kind of an overview, kind of going to more of moving on. The Lady Gladio, I believe is how they are referring to her here, along with some other characters. And then we have the Rift Riders, which is their RPG tier as well. Rescale Miniatures has been doing some previews of what's coming in January, and I'm actually getting pretty excited for their release. These are the Cliffside Orcs. So this was the first preview they showed. This guy is Mikagar, a fungal ogre. And then they released some more orcs with crossbows, so they put that out as well. Here is another cliffside orc, and that is a giant vulture. Of course, the vulture can come without the rider. And here we have a cliffside orc riding a brutal wyvern, which would make sense, I think, on a cliffside. And of course, the wyvern doesn't have to have a rider at all in order to be just as equally terrifying. Estudio has put out their preview, and I kept all these in the fantasy time this round. So here we have our Blizzard Volume 3. So we have a dwarf on a griffin, we have a goblin with a mech, we have an abomination. We have a few different creations here. We have a Western RPG Volume 9, and it wasn't until I looked at the bottom two characters on the left and right that I was like, wait a second, that looks like I think it is. Am I wrong? I'm actually pretty excited about that. And then we have Classic JRPG Volume 36. And I'm sorry to say, I don't know if these, I know they probably are, but I don't know what they're specifically inspired by. obviously a Japanese role-playing game, but RPG Figures has done their January preview, and for the month of January, we are getting some sort of treasure. I'll let you open it up first. Sir Nicholas Miniatures has done a few previews. This is various heads of some creatures you'll be getting from Sir Nicholas, the Great Holy War. And this is a butcher character, for example. There's also some monolithic slabs as terrain that you can print off too. SolGood Studios is doing Crackletooth Human Fighter Were Crocodile. It comes with a bust and some stats as well if you're interested in playing this character in D&D, Dungeons and Dragons of course. But here we go. Here's what this miniature looks like. So SolGood is a smaller creator and they release 1 or 2 miniatures busts a month, but you get a very high quality miniature. STL Miniatures continues pushing along. We have Saddle Maker Set here, so we have a group of NPCs that can make saddles for your crew. We also have a Mounted Rider set. Notice that these guys are riding some sort of giant land lizards, and these lizards can have different heads depending on what you want them to look like. For Frostgrave and Rangers of Shadow Deeps, they have basilisks and a Txarli sorcerer. Not familiar with that word, sorry. Terrain Essentials is doing Medieval Market 2. We see an explorer's stand. So miscellaneous stall, beer barrels, veggies, and so forth. This thing's to add flavor to your town piece. And while not shown in this image, they also released these animations here showing of these carts that kind of fit together in various ways. Threat Factory has released this preview image of an Etten. And I don't know about you, but I feel like somewhere there's another male Etten over there, and he is getting blessed out from the perspective of this. Just that's the jive I get from this image. Also, good reminder, My Mini Factory is currently doing their Winter 24 sale. I believe this is through January 10th, so you've still got a good week to catch up on any miniatures that you want to take advantage of. Notice that for Threat Factory, it's up to 40%, so the percentage is not always the same for every creator, but worth checking out if you have any interest. Titan Forge Miniatures has released their preview. This month will be Animal Folk and Swamps. So here we have, is it a frog? Is it a dragon? Is it a lizard? Not sure. Here we see some of the animal folk. And then moving over to the swamps, we have, I guess the caterpillar. We have some myconids, big ones and small ones. And then for the RPG corner, we have some mortal enemies for you to fight. And then we have some heroes. Now, they didn't put one with all three together, so we'll have to look at these separately. We seem to have 3 females this month, that orc. And we have not sure. I guess she's human. She might be an elf. I can't quite see her ears. And I'm assuming that is supposed to be a female dwarf with a beard. Maybe it's just a scarf. Txarli or Txarli Factory is doing some Mausoleum Graveyard releases this month for fantasy. They also do some science fiction releases too, so be sure to check out that video for the preview as well. Wargames Atlantic has their release for the month of January, and you can hit pause and read through everything that they're doing here. I always have a difficult time figuring out exactly what pictures are what, and sometimes they do their previews a little bit later. I believe these are First Empire's Assyrian Armored Cavalry, but they might be Numidian Javelin Cavalry actually for Decline and Fall. I was not sure which ones these are. They're not cavalry. I am wondering if this is the Age of Chivalry Matthias Corvinus character pack, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure these are the general accoutrements. Wolves, Canis Lupus. Here are some Dwarf Rangers. A Hired Guard, Troll. And some Halfling Villagers from Classic Fantasy. White Angel Miniatures. Thanks, John Mark, for recommending this. We have Dwarf Kingdoms, and they've done a couple of previews. So here's the first big preview, and just to look at these in a little bit more detail. Have some Dwarven pirates there. And they've done a second update as well, preview. Some heavy weapons, dwarf pirates. And then I thought this guy was actually really cool. So this is not just a single pilot by himself, but he has a couple of helpers as well. White Werewolf Tavern has done preview art of their January release, and it seems to be Thorns and Whispers for this month. So here we have Blossom Wing. We have the Face Snatcher. We have the Serpent's Bloom. We have Glimmer Guardians. Dragon Wing Scouts. Amber Wing Wardens. And a Bloomin' Coil Spawn. Might be time to dig out that old Kinzer & Company game, Fairy Meat. World Forge Miniatures is doing Storm Rain City. So we have a palace build kit, a portal, some columns, scatter, fountain, and a floating island. Well, that's our preview video, folks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon for our overview video in January. Thank you so much.